The wind moved quietly across Vintham Hill. Police officers climbed the slope after receiving reports about two bodies discovered by local children. At first glance, nothing seemed normal. The two men were not dressed like hikers. They were wearing formal suits and raincoats despite the weather. They looked as if they had arrived for an important meeting rather than a trip to a hill. The men were identified as Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viano, both electronics technicians from Campos dos Goitacazes in Brazil. Police expected to find signs of violence. They looked for wounds, blood, weapons, anything that could explain what happened. There was nothing. No gunshot wounds. No knife injuries. No signs of struggle. No evidence that they had been robbed. The scene almost looked arranged, as if both men had simply laid down beside each other and never stood up again. But then investigators began noticing strange details. Near the bodies, they found a small notebook containing a handwritten note. The note reportedly included instructions. 1630, be at agreed location. 1830, ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask. Investigators stared at the words. What capsules? What signal? And what exactly did protect metals mean? The message sounded less like an ordinary note and more like instructions for an experiment. Then officers looked again at the objects around the bodies. Beside them were towels. There was a bottle of water. There were packets of pills. And there were the objects that would later make this mystery famous around the world. Lead-eye masks. Not protective glasses. Not medical equipment. Homemade lead masks. Roughly cut pieces of lead designed to cover the eyes. No eye holes. No explanation. Just heavy metal sheets, shaped to fit over the face. Police had never seen anything like it. Questions immediately began appearing. Were they conducting a scientific experiment? Were they involved with secret groups? Did they expect some kind of bright flash? Or had someone manipulated them into participating in something dangerous? As investigators continued searching, the mystery became even stranger. Witnesses started coming forward. One witness claimed she had seen a strange object over Vintham Hill on the evening before the bodies were discovered. She described a glowing object in the sky. According to reports, the object appeared unusual and moved strangely. Over time, stories spread quickly. People whispered about flying objects. Some believed aliens were involved. Others thought the men had become part of an occult ritual. Newspapers loved the bizarre details. Within days, headlines across Brazil were exploding with speculation. The mystery of the lead masks. Strange death on the hill. Did two men contact something unknown? Fear and curiosity spread everywhere. But investigators had a problem. Theories were everywhere. Evidence was not. The bodies had already been exposed to weather conditions before detailed examination could happen. This created major difficulties for forensic experts. If poison had been involved, evidence might already have disappeared. If capsules had caused their deaths, identifying them would become extremely difficult. Time had already started destroying answers. And time was becoming the greatest enemy of the investigation. Two ordinary technicians had walked up a hill, carrying masks, notes, and strange instructions. But the next question shocked investigators even more. Why did they travel there in the first place? And who were they expecting to meet? Every mystery begins with a final decision, a moment when ordinary life quietly changes direction. For Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viano, that moment began in their hometown of Campos dos Goitacazes. The two men were not strangers. They were electronics technicians, known by people around them as intelligent men with technical skills and curiosity about science. They repaired electronic equipment and spent time working with radios and related devices. But according to reports connected with the case, they also shared another interest. They were fascinated by unusual ideas. Some reports later suggested they had interest in spiritual phenomena and experiments involving electronic communication with unseen forces. During the 1960s, ideas like these were not uncommon in parts of Brazil. Many people believed technology and spirituality might somehow connect. Some believed radios and electronic signals could communicate with dimensions beyond normal human understanding. Whether Manuel and Miguel truly believed these ideas deeply remains uncertain. But investigators later learned they had apparently conducted unusual experiments before. And then came the day of their final trip. On August 17, 1966, the two men left home. To their families, nothing seemed particularly alarming. They reportedly told relatives they needed to travel to buy electronic materials and equipment. It sounded like an ordinary work trip. No one suspected anything unusual. No one imagined it would be the last time they would see them alive. The men carried money with them. They also carried notebooks and personal belongings. Then they boarded transportation toward Niteroi. As investigators later retraced their movements, small pieces of the day slowly began appearing. Witnesses remembered seeing them. One important witness was a waitress. According to reports, the two men stopped at a local bar or shop during their journey. The waitress remembered something unusual. The men seemed nervous. One of them reportedly bought a bottle of water. Then came a detail that later became famous. The waitress claimed one of the men appeared worried about the time, almost anxious, as if they had a schedule they absolutely needed to follow. At that moment, no one thought much about it. But after the mysterious deaths, investigators remembered the strange note. 1630, be at agreed location. Suddenly, the concern about time felt different. Were they trying to reach a meeting? Had someone instructed them where to go? Or were they preparing for some experiment? Questions multiplied. Investigators continued reconstructing the route. Later reports suggested the men purchased raincoats despite the weather not requiring them. This detail seemed strange. Why buy raincoats if the sky wasn't threatening heavy rain? Was it preparation? Protection? Or something else entirely? Then came another unanswered question. Some of the money they had carried remained untouched. If robbery had been the motive, why leave money behind? Criminal investigators usually search for motives. Money, revenge, personal conflicts, jealousy. But here, none of those fit comfortably. Everything felt incomplete. Everything felt as though investigators were looking at only half of a picture. Hours later, Manuel and Miguel reached the area near Vintim Hill. And after that, their movements became increasingly difficult to reconstruct. Some witnesses claimed they saw the two men heading upward. Others remembered nothing unusual. No one reported screams. No one reported violence. No one reported panic. Just two men climbing a hill, walking normally, disappearing into mystery. Then came the silence. Hours passed. Night arrived. Families waited. Days later, the bodies were discovered. And investigators were left asking a chilling question. What happened between the moment they climbed that hill and the moment they never came back? Police now had strange masks, a cryptic note, and a final journey full of unanswered questions. But the investigation was about to become even more confusing, because witnesses soon began describing things in the sky. When a mystery has missing pieces, people naturally begin filling the empty spaces with their own answers. As news of the strange deaths spread across Brazil, investigators continued gathering witness statements. Most witness reports sounded ordinary. People had seen two men traveling. Some remembered their clothing. Others remembered small details. But then investigators heard stories that seemed to belong inside a science fiction movie. Several witnesses claimed unusual lights had appeared near or above Vintim Hill around the time of the incident. One woman later described seeing a strange object in the sky. According to accounts connected to the case, she said the object looked bright and unusual. Reports described orange or yellow-colored light. Some versions of the story claimed the object moved silently. Others claimed it changed direction in strange ways. Soon newspapers became fascinated. The public became fascinated. And suddenly one possibility began spreading faster than all others. Could this be connected to UFOs? Remember the time period. This was the 1960s. Around the world, stories about unidentified flying objects were attracting enormous attention. People everywhere reported mysterious lights. Newspapers covered strange sightings. Television programs discussed unexplained events. Public imagination was already filled with mystery. So when people heard about two dead men wearing lead masks and strange notes mentioning signals, the connection almost created itself. Rumors exploded. Some believed Manuel and Miguel had climbed the hill to contact extraterrestrials. Others claimed the lead masks protected their eyes from powerful light emitted by some unknown craft. People started combining facts with imagination. And slowly, the lines separating reality from speculation began disappearing. Investigators faced a serious problem. Witness testimony can be valuable, but memory is complicated, especially after a shocking event receives huge media attention. People sometimes unintentionally change memories. Details become mixed together. Stories become larger. Questions can influence answers. Investigators needed evidence. Not rumors. Not fear. Not headlines. Actual evidence. So police searched for physical proof. They looked for burns on the ground. They looked for signs of unusual activity. They searched for marks suggesting landing equipment or machinery. Nothing definitive appeared. No clear evidence supported alien involvement. No physical traces proved something extraordinary had landed there. Yet the strange witness reports refused to disappear. Because even without proof, humans dislike unanswered questions. When evidence leaves gaps, imagination often moves in. But investigators were still dealing with a more immediate problem. The note mentioned capsules. 1830, ingest capsules. Those words kept returning. Because if the men truly took something, that something could explain everything. Maybe not aliens. Maybe not supernatural forces. Maybe not secret organizations. Maybe simply poison. Investigators pushed further into the men's background, and what they found started pointing toward unusual experiments. Reports suggested the men had previously shown interest in spiritual communication and electronic experiments. Some accounts connected them to groups attempting to contact unseen forces through technology. Investigators wondered, were the capsules part of some experiment? Did they believe they would experience visions? Did they expect contact with something? Or did they accidentally consume something dangerous? The questions kept growing. Answers did not. Then another troubling possibility emerged. What if they had not taken the capsules willingly? What if someone else had been involved? What if there had been another person on that hill? Someone who never came forward. Someone who disappeared. Because every investigation eventually reaches a dangerous moment. The moment investigators ask whether the victims were truly alone. Two men. Lead masks. Strange lights. Mysterious capsules. And now investigators faced another question. Was there a hidden person behind everything? Every investigation reaches a moment when detectives expect answers. But sometimes, the answers never come. Months passed. Investigators continued collecting information, interviewing witnesses, and searching for evidence. They hoped one small detail would finally connect all the strange pieces together. But the lead mask's case refused to become simple. Instead, it became stranger. Authorities explored several theories. The first possibility was accidental poisoning. The mysterious note had specifically mentioned capsules. 1830, ingest capsules. That line became extremely important. Investigators wondered whether Manuel and Miguel had taken some chemical substance during an experiment. Maybe they expected hallucinations. Maybe they expected a spiritual experience. Maybe they believed they were preparing themselves for contact with something unknown. And maybe they accidentally took something deadly. But there was a problem. At that time, forensic technology and conditions surrounding the case created difficulties. Investigators could not establish clear proof of exactly what substance might have been consumed. Without evidence, the theory remained incomplete. Then came another theory. Murder. Police asked difficult questions. What if somebody guided the two men there? What if another person had written instructions? What if someone met them on the hill and later disappeared? But again, investigators faced the same obstacle. There were no signs of violence. No defensive wounds. No clear evidence of a fight. No obvious suspect. Nothing strongly pointed toward murder. Then came theories involving secret groups and spiritual experiments. Reports suggested the men had interests connected to unusual ideas involving electronics and spiritual communication. Some investigators considered whether the men had participated in dangerous experiments. Perhaps they believed they were about to receive some signal or message. Perhaps the lead masks were meant to shield their eyes from a bright flash. Perhaps they expected to witness something extraordinary. But even this explanation had missing pieces. Why choose that hill? Why those instructions? Why the strange preparation? No one knew. And of course, the most famous theory continued spreading across newspapers and public imagination. UFOs. Aliens. Unknown visitors from somewhere beyond Earth. People pointed toward reports of strange lights. They pointed toward the masks. They pointed toward the mysterious note. But investigators never found evidence proving such claims. The story survived. The mystery survived. But proof never appeared. Years turned into decades. The case slowly moved from active investigation into history. Yet it refused to disappear. Even today, people continue discussing the mystery. Documentaries examine it. Writers analyze it. Researchers revisit old reports, and people continue asking the same question asked in 1966. What happened on Vintam Hill? Perhaps Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viano believed they were taking part in something important. Perhaps they climbed that hill expecting discovery. Perhaps they thought they were about to witness something extraordinary. Instead, they became the mystery. And maybe that is what makes this case so unsettling. Not because of aliens, not because of secret organizations, not because of supernatural stories, but because sometimes real life creates mysteries stranger than fiction. Two men walked up a hill. Two men never came back. And nearly 60 years later, the hill remains silent. So what do you think happened in the lead mask case? Was it an experiment gone wrong? A hidden crime? Or something we still don't understand? Let me know your theory in the comments. And remember, some mysteries are solved by evidence. Others survive by questions.